If you want to hear 3 theories about the setup for a sequel, then stick around to the end of this video. Michael Myers, Jason, Freddy, Pennywise, Leatherface, and many others have just welcomed a new member into their exclusive club of horror icon remakes, and that member is Chucky. Today on Things You Missed, I'll be covering everything you might have missed in the 2019 Child's Play. The new film is very different from the original, but it's absolutely loaded with nods and parallels to the original Child's Play series, many of which I think you'll be surprised to learn. The movie begins with this introduction video to this company Kaslan, who are very similar to PlayPal's toys from the original series, in that they produce the doll and all sorts of accessories. In fact, we see the inside of the factory where the Buddi dolls are produced, and it's very similar visually to the factory that Chucky chases Kyle and Andy through in Child's Play 2. It is here that we discover the origin of Chucky's evil. This time, it's not a serial killer transferring his evil soul into the body, but rather a factory worker programming his evil intentions into the source code of this toy. The worker later throws himself off the building and lands on a car for the first death of the movie. Aunt Maggie lands on a car for the first death in the original Child's Play. When Andy's mom comes home from work, the IT guy is installing cameras in the halls made by Kaslan. So it seems like they control almost all of the technology in this world, but I'll come back to that later in this video. In both this and the original, Andy's mom gets the doll secondhand. In the original, it's a street peddler, and now it's a returned item to the store that she works at. The name of the doll has been changed from Good Guys to Buddi. But don't worry, this isn't a betrayal of the original. It's actually a reference to the real-world doll that the original is based on, the My Buddi doll. Legend says that 80s kids still have the jingle stuck in their heads, and so will you after I roll it.
My buddy, my buddy, my buddy, my buddy, wherever I go, he goes.
The name change also just works well with modern tech's strange gravitation towards lowercase i's. I guess it's supposed to stand for internet, but after being overused in every tech product, I think we can agree that it stands for insufferable. Andy's mom tells him to go make friends with some of the kids standing outside, but he says he doesn't want to. They could be serial killers. A little nod to the fact that in the original, the good guy doll is possessed by a serial killer. Also, there's a possible connection in that Andy likes to draw these strange buddy cop pairings in his notebook. Could be a reference to the 2 cops that helped take down Chucky in the 1988 film. Or at least one of them helps. In this version, the kids are given the opportunity to give a custom name to their toy. Andy names his Han Solo. Big missed opportunity to not go with Luke Skywalker instead, seeing as how Chucky is voiced by the man who plays Luke Skywalker. There's also a song known as the Buddy song that goes, "You are my buddy until the end." The original Chucky doesn't sing, but it does have a phrase that goes, "We're friends to the end."
Hi, I'm Oscar, and I'm your friend to the end.
Okay, so the next part is what I find most interesting, because this remake has its own plots that isn't similar to the original, but the overarching idea is the same, but in a modern setting. What I'm talking about is the fact that Chucky's voodoo possession of the doll in the 1988 movie causes him to slowly become human, but in the 2019 remake, he's just an AI with safety restrictions removed. But he learns how to behave by watching and imitating humans. So in a sense, he's becoming human throughout the movie because he's learning to behave like a human. Unfortunately, the humans that he's taking his cues from are irresponsible preteens who teach him to do bad stuff for laughs, so Chucky begins to see this as acceptable behavior. They also show him the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which causes Chucky to remove one of his victims' faces, and is probably influenced by other horror movies, judging from the posters on this kid's wall, like Killer Clowns from Outer Space and Poltergeist 3, both of which came out in 1988, the same year as the original Child's Play. One aspect of the new story is that Andy has been given Chucky as an early birthday present, because his mom knows that the move has been hard on him. There's also a point later where he gives the gift to his neighbor, Mrs. Norris, and tells her that they can open gifts together on his birthday. So there's a looser connection here to Andy from the original, who receives the good guy doll as a last-minute birthday gift. Now this next one, I don't know if I would count it as a thing you missed, maybe more of a disturbing thing that I thought of after the facts. I'm just not gonna start a whole web series called Disturbing Things I Thought About After the Fact. But Chucky starts his killing by taking out Andy's cats, and that night, Chucky stands in his room and plays back cat noises. These were probably the sounds of the cat's final moments. Pretty messed up soundtrack to fall asleep to. I think I'll stick with lo-fi chill hot beats to study/relax/sleep for my bedtime music choices. Chucky's next victim is Karen's boyfriend, Shane, because for some reason, all guys who date a single mother in horror movies turn out to be evil. Like seriously, try to name one exception to this rule. He's taking down Christmas lights when Chucky finds him, which tells us that this movie still takes place in January, like the original, despite the fact that it seems to be in a warm weather climate as opposed to Chicago. Taking down the lights was a neat way to show this without drawing too much attention to an otherwise unnecessary detail. Chucky attacks him in a very similar way to how Aunt Maggie is attacked, with Chucky rushing around in the dark before knocking his victim down from a high up place. He tears Shane's face off and his hair lands on a garden gnome, which instantly made me think of this Keemstar video from 2016 where he wears an emo wig and pretends to be Leafy is here.
I want to kill myself. Also in the news.
When Andy and his friends realize that Chucky has gone too far, they take steps to deactivate it. And they do so by removing what I'm assuming is supposed to be the battery, which is located in the center of his chest, just like the heart that they have to shoot to kill Chucky in the original.
Kill them all! The heart! Shoot him in the heart!
After doing this, they toss him down the garbage chute, thinking that that'll be it. But like Child's Play 1, 2, and 3, Chucky always finds a way to come back whenever you think that he's done for. And when he does, he kills the pervy IT guy that put him back together. I guess in addition to watching Texas Chainsaw movies with Chucky, they must have also been watching some Saw. Chucky gets back into Andy's life by mailing himself to one of the other kids in Andy's building, which brings up the exact same question I had in my video on Child's Play 3, which is how do you wrap a package if you're inside of it? But this brings us to another interesting parallel to the original, which is that Andy is the only one to realize that this is the same Chucky as the one that he had. And as a result, everybody thinks that Andy is crazy. The old Andy was put into a hospital, but this one just goes all Anthony Rizzo on the TV. Could've just unplugged it. All you had to do. There's also a scene where Mrs. Norris goes in a Kaslan car, which is like Kaslan's version of Uber, and Chucky takes control of it and crashes it. Remember, Mrs. Norris is the mother of Detective Mike Norris, and in the original, Detective Norris also gets his car crashed as a result of Chucky. And the part that follows, where Chucky attacks from 360 degrees around the car, is very similar in both movies. The climax takes place in the store that Andy's mom works at, where they're having the launch of the brand new Buddi 2, which includes different forms, such as the Buddi Bear, an obvious Five Nights at Freddy's reference, and the leprechaun outfit. I guess possibly a leprechaun reference? But the idea of there being multiple Buddi dolls being taken over by Chucky itself is a reference to the previous movie in the franchise, Cult of Chucky, where Charles Lee Ray manages to get his soul into multiple bodies. I've heard that this is an idea that they've wanted to use for a long time, but didn't. But if you think about it, it actually makes sense here because Chucky is stated to have the ability to control all Kaslan products. Also, the RC police car that shouts out the RoboCop line could also be a nod towards Child's Play 3, where one of the toys that Chucky uses to attack the PlayPal CEO, Mr. Sullivan, is this toy car. Those of you who watched my video on the original Child's Play, I wonder how many times I said the word original during this video. But those of you who saw it remember my idea to make a whole movie off the creepy mascot from the Good Guy Unveiling commercial? Well, in the new one, they use a creepy mascot during the unveiling of the actual product in stores. And while it wasn't a whole movie, I was glad to see the mascot being used for something. It's no secret that one of the most beloved scenes in the Child's Play franchise is the final factory scene from Child's Play 2. So to replicate some of that magic, the reboot throws Andy into a final confrontation with Chucky in the warehouse at the back of the store. Something that is alluded to earlier on when Andy's mom blackmails her coworker Wes by threatening to tell his wife what went on between him and a woman named Susan in the warehouse. Chucky kidnaps Andy's mom and tries to hang her, which is how he killed the factory supervisor in Child's Play 2, but Andy makes it just in time to save her. But as we know and have established many times, Chucky always finds a way to come back. And this time it's Detective Norris with the heroic one-liner where he says, "This is the end." Very similar to the OG Andy's line.
This is the end, friend.
Except this time it really is the end. Well, maybe not. The company Kaslan issues a statement where they take no responsibility for the incident, which parallels their PR response to their stockholders in Child's Play 2. And an evil Buddi doll ends up on the store shelves once more. So the question about this ending is, how did Chucky survive? We saw him get shot in the chest and then his head was pulled off. There are a few possibilities. If they're trying to set up a sequel along the lines of Child's Play 2, it's possible that the company reconstructed Chucky to appease their stockholders. But I already covered why that's a terrible idea on my video on the second one, so another possibility is that this simply wasn't the only one. The disgruntled Vietnamese worker could have made several rogue dolls for all we know. But my favorite theory is that because this iteration of Chucky is connected to the cloud and can interact with other Buddi dolls, it could have sent its AI and everything that it learned to other dolls, meaning that Andy or some unlucky kid could be up against a whole army of Chuckies in the sequel. Let me know which theory you would get behind in the comments. Now I've gotten a lot of requests to cover Bride of Chucky, Seed, Curse, and Cult here on Things You Missed, so with a sequel probably going to happen now, I'll definitely have to do those in the future. So make sure you are subscribed to CZsWorld. I post new horrors every week. Just ring the death bell for notifications, and I'll see you in the next one. Assuming we both survive.